Don't watch this video if you're a manager who just loves sitting in his office all day, who loves his authority and doesn't like it being questioned, and who just expects that people are just going to do everything that you say without any questions or follow-ups. This video is definitely not for you. Now, if you're a manager who wants to improve yourself and your team to reach your full potential, stick around. Today, I'm going to explain to you why understanding, learning, and actually doing the work that your team does is such a high added value for yourself and your team that you won't want to miss it ever again. It's going to get you tons of respect, admiration, and loyalty from your team. Not to mention all of the knowledge and expertise that you're going to be getting from this. It's going to pay out dividends in the long run. Now, let's get to it. So why is this so important? The first part is that I understand and I know what my team is doing. They can't BS me on how long or how complex the task is because I've already done it and I've tested it myself. So I have a general feeling and understanding on how long will a task take and how it's supposed to be done. They definitely cannot tell me that a task is going to take 8 hours instead of 2. The second reason is improvements and optimizations. If I understand what my team is doing, I can help them improve the process and optimize it so that we can achieve our full potential, whether that's quality-wise or time-wise. Preferably both, but one or the other is going to be great. What usually happens is when a person has been doing this task over and over again, they just have that industry blindness. They're just doing it without thinking. And they may not think of a solution on how to optimize the process or how to do it faster. When they come in with a fresh perspective and fresh eyes, we may actually achieve a lot more with us collaborating and seeing, hey, can this work? Can that work? Or anything similar. A great example of this was when I was a production director in manufacturing for a whole plant and I had 120 people underneath me. So I was learning and understanding what each machine does, what each person does. And it was also in the middle of a really big automotive boom when orders were just coming and flying in. So we had these two machines that were producing pretty much the same products, but of different sizes. And the one that was producing larger sizes was, of course, a lot slower than the one that was producing smaller sized products. So what happened was that we had so many more orders for the larger sized products instead of the smaller sized products. The machine that was producing larger components was running nonstop. And the smaller machine was used maybe 5 days a month and no more. So when we got to this issue that we had to increase our production, I just asked a simple question. Hey, can we use the smaller machine to create larger pieces? And the answer right away was like, no, it's not possible. Why isn't it possible? Because this machine doesn't do this. So my next question was, can we make it do this? After some back and forth, we actually came up with a solution on how to do this. The only kind of downside was that maybe it would take 2 or 3 months for the new components to arrive. I was like, that's fine. We can do 2 or 3 months. Fast forward 3 months later, the components to update the machine actually came and we were able to produce the larger products in the other machine as well. So we were able to utilize that machine and we actually increased our production by 50% just because of that. And this is where it becomes really important that I know what my team does, what my machines do, and what each individual does, because I'm able to first understand them and then provide solutions. Because if I didn't know this wouldn't have happened, we would just be stuck around and waiting and trying to figure out how to improve and optimize the larger machine instead of actually doing something with the smaller machine. And this is the power of getting my hands dirty and getting to understand and know what my team is doing. The other thing why this is important is that I can actually talk comfortably with my managers. A good example of this is also when I was a production director and when we had regular meetings with my general manager and other directors as in sales, marketing, and when they actually wanted us to sell more than we could actually produce. Now, if I was just a regular production director that didn't understand what my team was doing and how the machines work, I could have just told them like, okay, the actual capacity that we have is X because that's what it says in the machine specifications, or that's what my planning department is telling me. When we were in the meetings, I was able to tell sales, hey, we can sell this many amount of X products for this month, but we can't sell Y amount of products because they compete with each other. And you either have to tell me which ones do you want me to prioritize, or you have to tell the customer, hey, we're going to be postponing this delivery until next month or so. Without me understanding what my team does, I wouldn't be able to do that. I still can't believe that was actually true. I was the first person to create a full list of all of the products that we were creating and what is the capacity of each of the machines to actually do that. And also what were the cannibalizations that were happening if we used this machine for this product That meant that we couldn't produce this many products of another kind because they were using the same machine. They actually didn't have that. And I was dumbfounded when I found that out. So that was like my first task. When I get my hands dirty, it also enables me to understand what are the critical tasks of each team member and what are maybe not so critical tasks. So in this case, I will always make sure that I understand and I know how to do all of their critical tasks, because if anything happens to them, at least I'll know how to do it and I'll be able to cover for them. And that's happened to me pretty much in every single position that I was in, either production director, head of operations, regional operations director, you name it. Every single time I had to cover for some of my team members, which is completely fine. Now, the other thing that I'll also do is I'll make sure that in my team, there is at least 2 people that can do each critical task besides me. So we have 3 people that are actually able to do the same task. Because if we don't, and let's say there's only 1 person that's able to do that, what's going to happen is if that person gets sick, everything goes to shit. And we will be scratching our heads. How did this person do this? How did they do that? The way I usually do these tasks is when I learn and understand what each of my team members does, I put them into 2 brackets, the critical ones and the rest of the tasks. The critical ones, I understand them and I actually do learn them and do them myself. With the not so critical ones, I will do them if I have the time. If not, I'll just understand them. So let's say if a person just needs to fill in like an Excel sheet or table with specific data, I won't do that because I am 100% sure that I'll be able to figure out what this person is doing if I need to do the task. And probably that task will not be as time sensitive as possibly some other critical tasks. So I don't really bother of actually doing that. I was a production director. When my planner got sick, we had nobody else to plan the orders and actually issue the work. I knew that it would take her a couple of days to recover, but because I actually knew how to do this, I was able to cover and prevent any fallouts from the manufacturing floor. Because if the work order wasn't done, they would not be able to produce the products because of the system that we had at that time. So how do I make time to understand, learn, and actually do those critical tasks? The first and most important part is that I do them as soon as I can, preferably within the first 3 weeks when people are not going to give me so much tasks and I'm just going to be learning things. Then the second thing is that I'm going to be asking that person who I'm going to be learning from when they have time, when are going to be doing those tasks. Because one thing that I really don't want to do is for that person just to do a specific task because I want them to do it. I really want the person who's going to be teaching me this, that they're doing them with the regular routine. I don't want to just force it that, let's say if a person is doing it every Monday, I'm not just going to jump in on Wednesday and tell that person, hey, let's do this task because I want to do it now. No, if they're doing it on Monday, I'm going to make sure that I have the time on Monday to actually go through this task. I will also make sure that both mine and the other person's schedules are free. I make sure that I'm going to be on time and I'll make sure that I have no other commitments or that nobody's going to be bothering me during that time. I don't care what happens unless it's critical. It can wait for an hour or 2 or even a day. In the end, my team comes first. If your organization is properly run, they will not just create meetings for you from out of the blue or from today until tomorrow, but you're going to have regular meetings that are going to be already known for at least a week in advance. That's how I usually like it and how I want to do it. I absolutely despise rescheduling, especially if it's last minute, because it legitimately destroys and screws up every other person's time and effort and preparation and how they wanted to conduct their day. When I was the chief of staff of a career coaching company, my CEO was constantly rescheduling things. We had a meeting at 11 a.m. Of course, for the meeting with the CEO, you will prepare at least 10 to 15 minutes before. Depending on the meeting, it can be more. And then you're going to go into the meeting and you're going to be fully focused. The way this CEO did it was, let's say he had a meeting before and it went long or he just liked to talk to that person. So he would tell us 10:50, hey, I'm rescheduling it for 11:15. And okay, that's fine, whatever. But then at 11:10, he was rescheduling it again for another 15 minutes at 11:30. At one point, he actually rescheduled it like I think 4 or 5 times. When that happens, instead of us having a meeting at 11, we actually never had that meeting, but he was rescheduling it until 12:15 p.m. or 12:30. Guess what happens with that hour and a half? Nobody does anything because you're just waiting for 10, 15 minutes as you think that finally the meeting is going to go, but it actually doesn't. And then you just lose like an hour and a half of your time, not even talking about the preparation before or any other meetings that you had to have with your team or whoever before so that you can be prepared for the meeting that you have. I never reschedule unless it's something so critical that I cannot postpone it even for an hour or 2. When the day and the hour comes that I'm actually sitting with this person and he or she is teaching me on what to do, my whole thought process on this is I am a sponge. I'm absorbing all of the knowledge I can, and I'm going to be asking all of the questions that I can. The way I like to do it is that I sit down and actually start doing the task. And the person whose job is to do that task is going to be just running me through, hey, how this is done. What should I click? What should I type, or what should I do? This is how I learn. And when I do this task once, I'm at least going to have a fundamental understanding on how it's done. If a task is really critical, I will repeat it more than once so that I can actually get to understand it better and I know how to do it, so that when that person is maybe sick or doesn't show up, gets fired or whatever, I'll be able to hop in and actually make sure that operation or that task is done properly because I know how to do it. One really critically important thing that I do when I'm doing these tasks is make sure I show that I'm interested in it. Even if that task is extremely boring for me and I would rather be anywhere else but there, I will not show it. I will show as much interest and motivation as I possibly can. And I'll just make sure that I won't show this to my team members because maybe for them that task is amazing and they love to do it. If I show them that I'm not interested and I'm just going through the motions, they're actually going to be discouraged and they may not want to give me the best overview of the task. In the end, getting my hands dirty gives me the following 5 benefits. First one, I know what my team does, I understand what they do, and I understand the process. 2, I can cover for them when and if it's necessary. 3, I can help them get better at their jobs. 4, I can improve the processes and productivity much better than if I didn't know and understand what my team was doing. And at the same time, I can make sure that my team is doing their most productive work and focus on their most productive tasks. 5, I'll earn my team's respect, which in the long run is going to lead to trust and safety. Thanks, and see you next time.